What we're going to talk about, Farmer Chris?
I don't know.
The fact that we haven't got a bike still.
Yeah, we're going
Like
through
that
with.
we haven't got bikes
We're going
still.
through withdrawal symptoms at the moment.
Just spending our time watching the sheep and the chickens
And the rabbits.
and the rabbits and the kangaroos and doing a lot of Googling. We thought we would give you an update of the fact that we still don't have any bikes.
Nothing.
But we thought that you would really like at least something to know that we're still alive and we're still waiting.
We're doing some updates in as much that we're, with the bikes, even though we haven't got them, we're still speccing the bikes up. So we've ordered a couple of items.
A couple of items.
Well, of recent days we've organised...
Every day we find something else.
We've organised and ordered some screens. We're going to get some BMW screens in place of those stupid little plastic things at the front.
Those little bikini covers.
They're about that big. Yeah, we've got those on order. We've also ordered and changing the tyres. We don't want the, what are they, Maxxis?
Some kind of Maxxis, which when you research them, looks to be Chinese. Now, I'm not really against Chinese products because everything's Chinese. Phones, cameras, batteries, everything's Chinese. But they're a bit of an unknown quantity, these tyres. They do come fitted to the bike. But when we said to the dealership, is there any chance of swapping these tyres out for a better brand, basically for free, the answer was, well, we don't want them. We can't sell them. Nobody wants them. So
Says it all.
it's a case of we'll take both sets of tyres and hopefully sell them to someone who has a BMW, an F800GS. The tyres are really good, apparently, but they're road tyres, 100% road tyres, and we do feel that we would need something which has got a little bit of off-road capability. So we've gone for
The Anarchy Road.
Michelin Anarchy Road.
Yeah, the Anarchy Road tyres.
And they're being fitted, of course, by Moto Adelaide. They've given us a really good deal because we're buying everything else from them. The screen itself is adjustable, so it lifts up and then down. It's just got a simple manual adjustable operation. And just about everything is in stock at Moto Adelaide, except the bike, which is still in a crate in Melbourne, I think. And we'll phone them up this week and ask when they're thinking of transferring it. It's just an unusual set of circumstances. It's not that they can't get it here and build the bike. It's that we don't have anywhere to put it at the moment because we're homeless. So we don't have any.
Where we're staying, there's no provision for a couple of motorbikes to be securely parked up. And that's all it boils down to. So we've said we'll have them when we know we are going to be somewhere where it'll
We've
work
got a
out.
shed.
Yeah.
So we'll
And we've got some bits we'll want to put on the bike ourselves, so that we need somewhere to do that. We don't want to be doing that outside.
We'll do the screens ourselves. We'll fit the screens. They're waiting for the top half of the engine bar or the top protection, which goes above the engine bar protector, the engine protector. And the bottom bits are in stock, but the top bits aren't. So they're waiting for them to come from Wunderlich. And we're also waiting still for the Outback Motortech pannier racks, which are offset, and they're having to come from the United States. So we're still waiting for them. And in the meantime, we've been watching other people who are going around the world, and one guy who's riding in deep snow in Norway and Sweden and camping. It seems kind of ludicrous, but there you go. Everybody wants to do something different, and each to their own. And I must admit, he looks really warm and cosy, but he does look like a sumo wrestler by the time he's got all his clothes on.
Yeah, there is a positive to what he's doing, though, because he doesn't have to carry water, does he? He just goes out and sort of gets a shovel full of snow and then puts it on the stove.
Try to get the whitest snow as possible, of course.
No yellow water, yeah.
And we've been looking at tents. Now, I said that we weren't going to do any camping whatsoever. Unfortunately, having looked at some of the locations, it may not be as easy to get accommodation when we're sort of
on the fly.
Finished riding. And we'll be doing places like Scandinavia at the height of summer, when places are going to be pretty busy and accommodation will be fairly full. But also in emergency situations, if somebody has a breakdown or we've got a puncture that we can't repair and we're stuck in the middle of nowhere and we've got to wait, then we can't walk to the nearest hotel. So we've kind of bitten the bullet a bit and gone for a tent. And the tent that's on order is actually a bike packing tent, which means that the poles are shorter than usual.
Push bike.
A push bike, that is. And the poles pack down to about a foot in length, which means they can go in the tent pole section of the tailpack.
Yeah.
So the one that sits on the seat at the back has an actual tent pole section where you can just slide the tent poles in there. And it means that the rest of the tent, which is really small by the time it's packed up, just goes in one of the side panniers. It means, again, if the bike goes over, there's no danger of damaging the poles because it's on top of the bike. And we'll hopefully pack out the side panniers in soft things, such as sleeping bags and sleeping mats. And I already have a jet boil flash, which I took down the river when I paddled the River Murray. But it's just not quite, it's not as useful as I'd like it to be for something like a more extended camping trip. So when I was rehydrating food by just boiling water, it was sensational. But if I want to do any kind of cooking, it's got no regulator on it, and it means that you can't control the flame. So I've invested in a mini-mo, jet boil mini-mo. Carbon, and just a basic. And it means that with the attachment on the top, which turns it into a stove, instead of just the boiler for the cup, I can stick a skillet on there. At least we can have something like eggs or beans or some simple foods such as pasta. We don't have to rely 100% on rehydrating food and drinking black coffee. And so that, apart from a couple of tiny pillows, some new sporks, and the spatula comes with the skillet, that is about it regarding camping. It's going to be basic because it's not our intention to do a lot of camping. It is an emergency situation, and also we need lightweight, really tiny stuff that doesn't take up too much space between us in the panniers. What else have we been looking at?
I think we're forward thinking, and it's very easy to outthink ourselves sometimes, but we've certainly trying to research enough to take the meat of everything we want to do, the meat out of it, and leave us with really tiny little things to sort out. I mean, for argument's sake, I've bought a new multi-tool, a new Leatherman multi-tool, which I'll carry, and that'll go in the tank bag at the top. I mean, that's so useful. We've got tools, as you know, we've got specific tools, but something like that's going to be handy. So yeah, I've splashed out and got a decent Leatherman. I've already got one, but it needs some maintenance on it, and believe it or not, it's not that easy to get spares.
So effectively we've been shopping around trying to get everything as cheaply as possible, hunting the internet for discount codes, going for online stores which have free shipping and incentives to purchase with them.
It's worth doing.
To really keep the costs down. So while we're sitting waiting for the magic day to arrive when we go and collect the bikes, it's a case of making sure that we've got everything, absolutely everything that we need, and we don't need to go hunting for anything. I think anybody that's done a lengthy trip then has to consider things such as the maintenance of the motorcycle once you're on the move, lubing the chain, having the tools with you that can do the basics, things such as the Loctite, which you can secure screws and bolts, and then looking to the riders themselves and their comfort. We've got all of the luggage. We've made the decisions on bags and pannier racks, and gradually getting together all of the new photographic equipment. Still, the helmet and the sound recording for us communicating between each other is a work in progress, and I can get the Garmin and the phone connected to the helmet, the SRL3 comm system from Senna. I can get the Garmin and the phone connected, and I can get the X5 connected. What I am not certain about is being able to record our voices using the X5. So I was looking at someone else who is just using the DJI mic inside of the helmet as well, because it's got such a lengthy built-in recording time, and they don't have to worry about all of the connections. As long as you've got the photographic evidence and the video footage, but the must-have is you've got to have the talk-over, the voice-over as well. Otherwise, there's no point in recording it. We want to be able to record the chit-chat between us, which is something that we kind of haven't done up to this point. And we've noticed on other people who are doing it, it's what makes the videos really more interesting than just having a monologue all of the time. So that's a bit of a work in progress.
If anybody's got any ideas that we can consider to be looking at, maybe the best ways of doing it, put it up there and let us know.
I like obviously everything to be Bluetoothed rather than to have wires hanging out of everything. I've done the microphone in the pocket, the wired microphone from the Foresight, and it was a pain in the neck, to be quite honest. It did work, and it did record my voice quite happily, but it just recorded my voice, so no one could hear anything from Chris. And apart from that, we've updated most of our motorcycle equipment, and still undecided really on Chris's motorcycle equipment, because it's one of these all-in-one jackets which has a quilted liner zipped in, the rain section zipped in, and then you've got the outer layer which isn't itself waterproof. It relies on that inner waterproofing zipped in bit to be waterproof, and whilst it's okay once it gets wet, it's wet, and it takes some drying out for everyone that knows.
Might need an oversuit, but I'd rather not have too much stuff.
Or it might need a new jacket.
You can steam up, can't you?
Might need a new jacket completely, because we are looking as well at a heated vest, and if you've got a heated vest and a thermal liner and a rain liner, it's going to get really, really bulky, and it's not ideal. There are better solutions out there with shell jackets, then the heated vest underneath, and then a base layer, maybe an armoured base layer. I don't know. We need to really dig into that as the final stage of the clothing.
There's only so much space on your bike, on your luggage, that you can carry stuff. So you've got to look at the researching of this to make sure you get something that's not going to leave us with too much stuff to carry. The other thing with the carriage of stuff, I've sort of thought about, and that is we are actually putting together everything we need for the bike and for ourselves here. remembering that once we've got the bikes through their first service, we're looking then at getting across, probably it's going to be Melbourne, to ship them out to Europe, UK, and we're having to ship all the stuff with it. I did think in the first instance we would maybe look to speccing it up and ourselves up when we get to the UK, but I think it's proven it. It's taken such a long time to research stuff, the right stuff, whether for the bike or ourselves. We've more or less decided to ship it with us, if you like, rather than wait till we get to the UK or Europe and then look to do it. And of course the other thing is, if you go into the, which to us now is a foreign country, going to another country, you need the addresses to have things sent to you. And if we're looking at travelling around the UK, we've got friends, family, things, places to see, things that have changed in our 20 years away. You know, we're not going to have a fixed place to have things posted to, so that would maybe just make it awkward. So that's why we've packed stuff up, or we will be, and shipping it with us.
And I think that is effectively our update.
Yeah. I mean, we've got stuff that I think will be interesting, really interesting as well once we get going and we get the bikes, because we'll obviously be recording what we're doing with going through the shipping process. I'm sure there's people out there that they don't know the full process of what to do with shipping stuff across and why, and we're proving that it is awkward to buy bikes or rent bikes in foreign countries. It isn't quite as simple and easy as people might imagine. So there's a lot of stuff there for us to show everyone else and hopefully help other people as well.
So if you've enjoyed this video, please give us a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.
Love you long time.